When I said I worked in talent development, that meant I was working with like artists who had like some type of creative talent. Now, talent development refers to like the reputation of the employees that work at your company. That's what talent development is, what your employees are capable of. I think that's cool. I think that's cool that talent development has expanded to include so many people. It's really neat. It was very lonely being in talent development before. No one understood, but now they do.
You said earlier about like it takes 30 years for that success to happen sometimes. Those people who've become like wildly successful that you've known over the years, was there anything you saw in them way back at the beginning that they all had in common?
It's a weird answer, but they saw me. I felt lucky to be in the room with them. I felt like I was working with somebody who was going to take an idea that I had and execute it in a way that I could never have imagined it to be executed. And I love that. So I give away all my good ideas. I'm stuck with all my bad ones. All the good ones are TV shows and they're people's lives and careers. And they're my best friends or closest friends or business partners. And I think that the people that I've had the most success with also saw something in me and trusted me. And it wasn't a difficult process, and it was an intimate process. It's a deeply emotional process, and there's grief and there's creativity and excitement and all those emotions in it.
Welcome to the Leading with Integrity podcast. Leadership talk for the modern manager. With your host, David Hatch.
Well, welcome to Leading with Integrity. Is it Vinnie or Vin? That's the first thing to cover off, which we've already just talked about, but I loved your answer, so now we're going to record you saying it again.
Wow. How cool. By the way, every time I get this question, it's so not a straight answer. And this is just the power of visibility. When I was a child, I wanted to stand out and be different. My father's name is Vinnie Potestivo. My name is Vinnie Potestivo. He's Vinnie with a Y. I found out that IE was sort of a feminine way of spelling Vinnie. And as a gay man in the 90s, that was like one of the first things I did when I think about it. It's one of the first things I did branding wise that started becoming really aware of the power in us as people. And when I changed the spelling of my name and I claimed my identity and leaned into that name and brought that name with me everywhere in media and won Emmys and created TV shows and have had, huge actors and famous people say my name from stages by winning awards together. So much goes in that name. So thank you for the question. And y'all just here, the first thing I want to say is double down on your name, double down on that name. It's like the one thing that hopefully you have that's unique. And if it's not, then we find new ways for it to be fascinating and stand out, because it's hard to stand out in a crowd these days.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, and as you were saying before, like if you win an Emmy under the name, you're kind of stuck with it then, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So like Vinnie is my nickname, and Vincent being my obviously my legal name. But when you win an Emmy with Vinnie with an IE, that's like that's going to be on my tombstone. That's the way I'm going out for sure.
Yeah. Especially if you have aspirations to win more, like it'd be weird otherwise.
Yeah. More to come.
Awesome. Well, Vinnie, welcome again. Thanks for being with us today. We've kind of had a little preview there, but let's dive straight into your career so far. Like, what do you do today? Why do you do it? How did you get here?
David, I do the same thing. I look at people's names and I think, how do I make them stand out? David, the man with 2 Ds, the guy whose book ended his name with 2 Ds in the beginning and the end. That's full circle. So like, just to bring it back to the power of a name. It sounds silly, this conversation about names, but I've actually had this conversation with tremendous celebrities: Pink, Beyonce, Mandy Moore. Actually, I'll never forget talking to Mandy at 15 or 16 years old. And we were at MTV Spring Break. And I remember I said to her, so like, when you get older, are you ever going to be like Amanda Lee Moore? Like, are you going to lean into the whole, like when we get older, do our names change, or do we get to be Mandy and Vinnie for the rest of our lives? the truth of the matter is both of us went through a weird phase where we did lean into our quote unquote adult name for like a project. And then we ran right back to that kid inside, that child who we are, that person that I know I can nurture and get something out of because I'm being intentional in how I'm nurturing, not divisive, but intentional in how I'm nurturing. And if I can teach people, leaders, celebrities, artists, if I can teach the people who are creating conversations, who are asking questions that we are answering, if I can help train and be part of that conversation, I don't know and I can't predict what's coming in the future, but I know for a fact that we can make it. And I got to do that at MTV and Bravo and A&E and dozens of TV networks and streaming networks and digital networks like LinkedIn, for example, where I truly believe that the CEO and the CMO is the next and new celebrity. They have as much social power amongst their peers to make change. And I'm helping people now who can own their content make big moves. For the first 30 years of my career, I worked in TV because you needed to be a gatekeeper to get content made and to be seen and to be heard. You need to go through that gatekeeping process. So I became a gatekeeper at MTV and Viacom and other networks. And I got to create amazing content that network owned. And I learned that by working for platforms like MTV, when it was just seen as an American cable network, before we had enough content to take our library around the world globally and become a global pop culture brand. So I got to extend MTV to MTV UK, MTV Desi, MTV Polska. I mean, thousands of places now have MTV, and we're syndicating and we're aggregating and we're distributing our content in places that we never had access to, not until we owned enough content. So I take what I learned there. Platforms need stars. I know that for a fact. Ashton Kutcher and Punk'd, the Osbournes, and Jessica Simpson and Newlyweds. Those were big shows for MTV that my department got to develop and work really closely on. That's where I first started working with solo entrepreneurs who create content and conversation, and I had to create space for them. And then I just became obsessed with this idea and did it over and over again, and got to find housewives for Bravo and Millionaire Matchmakers and make big conversations happen that, you know, otherwise wouldn't have with real people. And that's so rewarding. And that's the thing I do now that I do back then. The people I did it with back then are just like world famous now because it's 30 years later. I promise you, when I cast Beyonce in her first film ever, the entire world did not believe that Beyonce was going to be the queen bee that she has become, always was, but that she has become. And there's steps, there's process, there's actually like information I can share. I mean, I worked with those people on their brands before they had dozens or hundreds of people working with them or for them. So if I can take some of the things I learned there and bring them into these conversations, the stuff that happens behind closed doors, the things that people don't know happen. That's what I was in the room for. That's why I have a podcast. And my podcast is called I Have a Podcast. And I literally sit down. I name dropped quite a few people, by the way. I sit down with those people on my podcast. My last episode is with Beyonce, and we talk about building her brand specifically. And her father and I actually had this conversation too. So it was cool to hear her career story through her manager and her first manager, which is her dad, and her second manager, which is herself. That was really cool to have this conversation now, 20 years after meeting her, after she's already learned how to be a manager and learned some of the hard conversations and decisions that people have to make, and how being polite often is an expense to you. You know, you sort of get paid two ways, price and cost, and being polite tends to be a cost. So being mindful of your barriers and boundaries. But I learned so much from these people, and that's why I'm here today to not talk about them, although I'll share some secrets, no problem. Things that are public. I'm not a gossiper, but I do want to learn through experience, and I think I can share those.
Yeah, wow. I mean, quite a journey so far then. There's so many things in there I could pick up on to follow the conversation through. So starting right almost at the beginning of what you were saying there about whether you're going to change your name as you get older and that whole thing. I don't know why, but it popped into my head that saying about you're only as young as you feel or as old as you feel. And so, like, in that context, why should you change life? If your name fits you and your personality and who you feel you are inside, it doesn't matter how old you are, right? It doesn't matter how others perceive you even. Why should you? So
Yeah. Well,
I hope that's where you both landed as well, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll say it this way. Discovery starts when you find yourself, and how you find you matters. Not just where you are and what you're doing and who you're doing it with and what you're saying and the words that you're surrounded with and the energy that you're surrounded with. But how you find yourself matters. Sometimes there's like an external event that needs to happen for you to find yourself, that could be, I mean, I was brought up Baptist. That could be biblical. If it's biblical, you better be careful, because if you don't know the answers and you don't know, how to, if you're looking out to find yourself when you're on the inside and you're looking externally for answers and it becomes biblical, those solutions usually are walk west, build an ark, or, to be honest, like, I don't know, like, isn't the ultimate healing isn't good. Ultimate healing looks like 6 feet under the ground. So like, I don't want to be ultimately healed, please. I need to come up with some answers on my own. And then I need to just step day by day with integrity into what I want those footsteps to look like, what I want those foot tracks to look like, where I want that destination to be. And how I get to places is so much more important than where I'm going. And it's not just because of the journey and the people that you pick up and the lessons that you learn along the way. It's the actual act of movement that I love. Look, I have a weird job for somebody who just truly loves to be in the audience of greatness. And I literally will build stages, theaters, platforms, spotlights, media distribution modality for you to keep you on stage if you're making the change that I believe in, and I can sit in your audience and be impacted by it, and to support the people who support me. I mean, Beyonce shows up and fights for laws and legislature. Mandy Moore fights for our rights to marry who we believe we should marry. And these are people who use their art in a beautiful way and in a painful way to start conversations, because they have clarity in their brand. They're consistently themselves, and that's evolving, and that's okay. And they accept that. And then they collaborate. When you have clarity and consistency and you collaborate, that's like the golden mecca of brand building. Because, I mean, if you ask me, the ideal definition of the best brands in the world are the ones that have barriers and boundaries, the ones that are very, very clear on how you can work with them. They've figured it out. They're going to let you, I'll allow you, I'll give you permission to work with me. That's a powerful place to come from. That comes from a place of ownership. I think of like Taylor Swift and Beyonce right now, who've like changed the way that people experience music, live music experiences. And I hope more bands and I hope more artists fall suit. I know it's an expensive task what she did, so I'm also hoping there's like some great music artists out there that are going to a rising ship rise with tides, so like bring us all up with them. And that's what I saw those two women do. They have clarity, they're consistent, and they're constantly collaborating, but they're evolving. They're always evolving. And like, visibility isn't about volume. It isn't about how many songs Taylor Swift has, how many songs Beyonce has, because after a while you forget. It's about the impact. Right? The focus is what makes you irreplaceable. Being fascinating is what makes you irreplaceable, not being better than anybody else. And to be honest, it all starts with you. So for me, with that, when I think of my name, for example, when I started my podcast, I knew for a fact my podcast was going to be called I Have a Podcast by Vinnie Potestivo. And I was going to put my name in the title, because the H1, the header, like this premium piece of information that is our podcast title, followed by the description, which is technically header 2. So header 1 being the title is always going to be in bigger print. It's always going to be the thing that Google scrapes and GPT scrapes and Gemini scrapes. It's always going to be the thing that people look for. And I'm going to create a marketing channel called the podcast for myself. I'm going to put my name in that title because I want to create a title of content that's connected to my name. And I need to connect to Google to make sure it knows that this intellectual property, this podcast, this piece of creation that I've created serves to promote my brand. And my brand name is Vinnie Potestivo. And I am able to now rank, which I thought would be really difficult, because we all say I have a podcast. I'm able to now rank on I have a podcast and on my name. Also, a big reason is because I took my name and I went to IMDb. As a podcast owner, I own intellectual property. So I can go to IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, the same place where movies and TV shows are. Spielberg and his executive producer credit for E.T. and George Lucas for Star Wars, and where the big stars go to get their credit. It's intellectual property. Podcast is intellectual property. So David, you are an executive producer, and by creating a credit in IMDb, which is owned by Amazon, has really high domain authority. See how I'm talking about like the sources to where you're being found? You see how my voice almost drops because of how important that H1 header is.
I feel like I should be taking notes.
I sound like my grandma when my voice gets down that low. Gosh, I love Sicilian grandmas like that. I know how to drive that message right home.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, going back to the beginning of what you said there, I don't think, you said it's a weird job for someone who loves being in the presence of greatness.
I mean, what else would I do, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't sound like a weird job. It sounds like the perfect job for you, frankly. So
that or a kindergarten teacher, for sure.
Yeah, that's a different kind of greatness, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, you pick your poison, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The truth of the matter is that it's funny to think of it this way. The truth of the matter is like a lot of my success is in the public. A lot of my success happens months or years or decades after I did the thing that I did with that person. Like sometimes it takes one right movie, one right project, one right podcast. I mean, in 2005, when I was turning podcasts into TV shows, no one else was taking podcasts to broadcast. I was definitely the first person at MTV in the Viacom family to bring a podcast into the broadcast conversation. But you got to take risks. And when you care about the people who are on stage, I was not afraid to take the risk. And you know how you take the risk corporately in media? You know what your bargaining chip is? Your name. It really is. And I have to socialize that. I have to socialize every idea that I've ever had. Osbourne's wasn't straight to series. We pitched Osbourne's internally. Sharon came to MTV and pitched Osbourne's, and it's Ozzy in real world. It's going to be great. She pitched to my boss. And MTV is not a nostalgia network. MTV didn't like the idea of a show with Ozzy Osbourne. This was like in a time of Britney Spears and 98 Degrees, and like Spice Girls had almost even like exited the pop culture scene in 2001 when we started looking at the Osbournes. But look, I come from that dysfunctional family in the house, and I know there's so much love. And I also know there's like things that happen in TV that are good, like big explosions and then emotional reactions. And then the problems are solved quickly because there's so much love and support there. Also a through line that I brought to Housewives of New Jersey. Actually, I can go through a lot of my shows and point out that I bring the fam. I'm really good at bringing the family in, whether it's the internal family you're given family biologically, or that work family where there's that construct. But it's built on building those types of shows and helping people create brands that. In television, it's difficult. In television, I'm in control of your brand. As the participant, you have no say in what makes final edit. So you need to have a lot of trust in the people that you're creating content with. If you're looking to truly become like the go-to expert in your fields, you need to have trust. You need to believe in your expertise. You need to believe that you're a great storyteller. I didn't I'm going a little bit fast here, but so I said, but I'm going a little fast here. I learned I was a good storyteller September of 1994. I was a senior in college, and I took a class called a Landmark Forum. And in that class, outside of college, they told us that we're just bad storytellers. Oh, I'm so unlucky. I'm like the only gay guy on Staten Island. My life is so difficult. All the things my parents got separated when I was, a kid. They got divorced like a month ago. I have alcoholism in my family. I'm the oldest of 6. All that story was my story. That was a big part of my story. Changing my name was me accepting what happened in the past and focusing on the future. And I literally that night came home from that class based on something that someone told me. And they said, I was a computer programmer. She said, well, honey, you should take out like an ad on a casting platform and think like a casting director and like start a casting database. And within a month of that suggestion, not only did I fill my casting database with over 700 submissions that got sent to my college, and it's like a mixture of like the Miracle on 34th Street when you find out Santa Claus does exist and they're pouring out barrels of heaps of mail, and it's also like a mixture of Zuckerberg starting Facebook in his dorm room. Like I was onto something big in my dorm room and I didn't even know what it was. I didn't let my curiosity stop me from doing something that I felt like I could, not that I should, but that I could. And that opened up doors to what became CNN and Fox News. And then I had some really unique coverage, a unique experience in political content. So MTV News was really attracted to what I could do with castings at scale and political. So I got to go in and recast all of MTV News and then all of the hosts and presenters and VJs for the channel. And here I am saying, guys, we are bad storytellers. If you want to change the facts, you have to take action. Action changes the facts and the facts change the truth. And if you look at reality TV, that's exactly what reality TV gives people the power to do. It's just take action, change the facts, change the truth, but with action, not just change the truth because you just feel like changing because you want to change your name. You got to take action that comes along with it. And it's that action that really stands out. And if you take that action and you are clear on your expertise, you trust yourself, and you buy into the story that you are telling about yourself, because look, we buy the stories that we sell because that's what's on the market, and we repeat those stories that we tell. So you could change that story and make it a better version of you, a stronger version, a healthier, a more fascinating version. That's a brand that's going to go far. Whether you're a leader or an artist, whether you want to be world famous or world infamous, whether you want everyone to know your name or you want everyone to know your work, that path works.
Interesting. Does anyone really want to be infamous? Isn't that something you do by accident on the road to find fame?
Maybe you're forgetting some of the shows that I've worked on. But yes, there's some people believe that there's a weird phrase, all press is good press. All visibility is good visibility, which is not true, by the way. There's like leadership visibility, and then there's spam visibility. And a lot of us, unfortunately, especially in social media, are stuck in spam, and we don't even realize it. I can't wait for people to look back at the post they write this year, 10 years from now, and be like, oh, it's so spammy. Here's my hashtag and follow growth and say this word. Like, where's the socializing? Where is the literal socializing in social media? It's really alternative media, and I'm going to be a little spicy. It's alternative media for people who didn't get on TV in like the Y2Ks because the gatekeepers didn't let them. And there was like this energy that got pushed into social because you could. And there's a lot of angst in that because there's frustration in not being seen and not being given a chance to be heard. And also, I don't want to be represented. I want to be the representation. I do not need to represent a total body of people. I can have agency and just represent myself. So I get it. It's very frustrating. But if we could use social to socialize our concepts more so than an alternative media that we can just put our content out on, social media would be so much more productive. And it would be for us. And we wouldn't have something called the algorithm. We wouldn't fear doing things because of the three people who own the three biggest, social networks on this planet right now, and their goals and values and that. So
Yeah.
I just point that out because it's not social. So
No,
don't
I
be
don't
so quick
disagree
to
with
give
you.
those people rights to your intellectual property. And by posting your content on those platforms, you do.
Yeah, it's so difficult to get away from it, though, isn't it? Like, it feels like the whole modern world is built on those three biggest networks these days. But you're so right. Like, it's the social part of it is, if it was ever there in the first place, I feel like it's pretty well dead by now.
I think that's the truth of it. I don't think it really ever was. And I would say this, I can't post my podcast content on YouTube. If I post my podcast content on YouTube, short form or long form, I wouldn't be able to get it on American Airlines or United Airlines, airport TV, gas TV, elevator TV, laundromat TV, university TV. I wouldn't be able to get my content in the deeply meaningful places where I wanted my content to be, in front of people who are forced to watch it because you can't tap and you can't swipe on a hospital screen, or when you're waiting at the airport and you're looking up and that screen is, 20 feet in the air. You can't tap, you can't swipe. But there I am, sharing, inspiring, talking about leadership. And so, I mean, if you start looking around all the places where all the screens are, it's 2025 now. I promise you in 2026, there will be not just short form content in our car screens, there will be long form content in our car screens. Every place that has a screen has a distribution mechanism. Let's call it that way. Like, there's a way to publish, whether it's syndicating, aggregating, there's a way to push or pull content to that screen. And those are networks. I work with Rite Aid. Rite Aid has stores everywhere. Rite Aid is a pharmacy in America, and they have stores coast to coast, thousands of stores. And in all of those stores, there's a radio network. And when I got to Rite Aid, I realized Rite Aid has a radio network. It's actually a radio network. It's programmed. There's ads in it. And I said, well, what if we took away 2 or 3 songs an hour and put in some clips from podcasters, especially local podcasters? What if we could drive traffic to local Rite Aids? Because we're a fascinating brand that supports podcasters, and podcasters are going around town saying, "Oh my gosh, did you go into Rite Aid? You have to hear my podcast. I'm on. It's 2 o'clock at 10. Go to aisle 5. I'm going to be up. Come. Let's go shopping." Like, just trying to create that event, and that's one way that I avoid social media. Also, on Instagram, I focus more on my GIFs on Jiffy than my posts, and I have millions and millions and millions of views on my GIFs. I know for a fact that if you type in LinkedIn, there's a meme of me drinking a mug of coffee that has a little LinkedIn logo in it. If you just type in the word LinkedIn, and I made a couple of iterations of that. So I know for a fact that I'm the first 4 or 5 stickers when you type in the word LinkedIn. You might think that almost sounds arbitrary, but like, think of all the AI video that are now tapping into Giphy. So anytime someone says the word LinkedIn, my face, my energy pops up on screen. And I've had so many people reach out to me like, "Oh, following my favorite account on TikTok, and they're talking about LinkedIn and they use your picture." And then I reach out to them and I'm like, "Hey, I'm like the 40-something-year-old white guy, in your video. It's nice to meet you. Can I get a tag?" And they're like, "All right, kind of weird. Like, it's like you're like a meme guy, It's kind of weird." And I replied back and I say, "Well, it's AI, so it's either going to rip us apart or bring us together, and it's your move. So I'm just a man asking you to choose me, pick me, love me." and those gifts let me be in people's content that I'm not in their conversation, that I'm not present for, but I'm a part of. And even I use a personal hashtag. My hashtag is LinkedVin only on LinkedIn. And I only have a personal hashtag on LinkedIn so that when people follow it, it's used for networking and conversations. It's not meant to find my content. It's meant for you to find where I'm commenting on other people's content, because I'm talking to people that I can make an introduction to. I'm making intros is what I do for like a living. So very happy to open up my Rolodex to make I heard my voice drop again. It's very serious, very serious. And that's why I like LinkedIn. That's why I ask people to reach out to me on LinkedIn before they know they even need me. Like, let's have a friendship and a relationship. I work with my friends, and I'm friends with the people I work with. My podcast is a testament to that, the 30 years that I've been in media. And not everybody wants to do what I do and choose. Not everybody chooses to work with their friends or needs to get along with everyone they work for. Not everybody needs to touch every client that their agency works with. That's why I'm a boutique agency of one. I have an awesome team. Most of my team supports the people that my clients, because it's their team, and I'm retraining them. I'm giving corporate SOPs to Fortune 150 companies to be better human creators. And if I can bring humanity back into it, that's integrity, right? Humanity is integrity, I'd like to say, or at least the intention of humanity is integrity.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that AI point, that's quite interesting. I didn't realize they were literally like pulling GIFs off of other sites, but I suppose it makes sense. It's not surprising at all now I think about it. So, I mean, where do you sit on this argument in terms of like the artistic rights and the creative license and the IP versus the AI that's scraping all of your material and creating other things, and you've had no say in that? You don't get any royalties or anything from it. I mean, where do you see the future of that going for AI and for the creative industries?
That's a brilliant question. I think that blockchain is going to come in and protect a lot of the people who are afraid of their data and their explicit content, not implied content, not the implication of brand and the implication of message, but the explicit content. This is like the difference. If you ever watch the Grammys and you hear best record and best album, and you're a little bit confused about like, they're the same thing, aren't they? Best album is the songwriting and the artistry of the album. Best record is the actual recording mechanism, the digital. So like a podcast, if it was best album, it's David and his energy and the way he creates questions. If it's recording, if it's best record, then we're looking at Riverside and the technical components of how you mix the audio and the lighting. And so it does take a careful balance for both. I use AI, but something that Mandy Moore taught me: input dictates the output. And I am my input. So I do not have ChatGPT scrape the internet looking for answers for me. I've uploaded like hundreds of hours of transcripts and writings and emails and blog posts and articles for me to create a knowledge base that I can pull from and also share. So from a creative perspective, I lean on AI to sort my ideas based on me being the content that it's pulling from. I also use it because I have I have really strong formats that I believe in, that I trust. So it helps me be a better writer because I know that there's a format for me that works. On LinkedIn, I can't start with a question. On LinkedIn, I have to answer the question. So I give the answer first and then I phrase the question. So it's education supported by education and experience. Like, it's fact supported by education and experience. And then like 2 or 3 bullet points about either why this matters, like what theorizing what will happen or how we can course correct this. I put, actual takeaways in there. I personalize my content. I start the sentence with the word I personalize my content afterwards. I don't use hashtags anymore because there's AI on these platforms. So the AI knows the intent of the content. Hashtags to me just look like marketing. Hashtags completely ruin the social vibe when I'm begging for an audience or I'm trying to archive I'm not going to try to archive my social content. I'm just going to show up and start writing regular messages that don't look hyper algorithm amped, juiced up, ready to rock and roll, because I'm not looking for audience to find my content based on the bits and pieces. And also hashtags have changed tremendously as well. So believing in that format allows me to show up and I can write beautifully and connect and write posts that get me lots of reach on LinkedIn. But also, I'm also aware that you have to propagate those lists. You have to propagate those posts. Yes, for example, I would put a video post on LinkedIn because video does really well on LinkedIn right now. But you have to manually submit your video post to the LinkedIn editorial team. You have to manually submit your post for it to be reviewed, to be considered, to be included in the video feed. And this is something I learned a year ago as a LinkedIn top voice. I learned this, and they have a program for us and an Airtable and a special thing that we had to log into with password protected. Recently, they made that open and available to the public. So if you're creating content, especially podcast content, which does really, really well because there's usually strong nuggets of information supported by education and experience, then go to buildyourvoice.linkedin.com. And that's LinkedIn's platform to help you learn how to literally pitch your content so that it can be supported by LinkedIn. Is a news organization. LinkedIn News is embedded in the LinkedIn platform. There's no other social platform that has a news corp like that. And I come from TV, so I'm very familiar with, like, you know, one channel makes a little tiny video, and then the big channel has this news org that supports the cable channel, and that's how we get the distribution. So if I can lean into the publishing mechanism of LinkedIn, which I truly have, not just with my newsletters, but and with their articles, and also, like, when you go to the site buildyourvoice.linkedin.com and you sign up, you get a daily email, and I get an email every single day that tells me what LinkedIn News is talking about. And if I want to take what I want to talk about and I want to match it to what they're talking about, I have the opportunity to have my posts get discovered and their articles that get pushed out worldwide. That is how I'm leveraging social media versus posts that burn after 24 hours. And also, LinkedIn doesn't like virality. It likes predictable growth. It's a business platform. Other creative platforms reward virality differently, but that's, like, I'm going to talk about my grandma again, but my grandma said, you always walk by those past the slot machines when you go into the casino, because they're just going to take you're going to have a couple of wins and you might get a really big win, but you're always going to lose more. My grandma would tell me. And that's how I feel about going viral on social media, to have a shot at success. And I think I could be more predictable than that. And I think that virality and support can be more supported if it's intentional, and that intentionality matters. I'm not divisive. I'm not trying to help people grow and their growth. It has to come, divisiveness is like, you're going to be great. Buy my program and I'm the person who's going to help you. And I'm the only one. So if you pay me lots of money, you'll be successful. I'm not being divisive. I'm being intentional. And I think that's why I can show up the way that I do. I don't even have a single thing to sell. I give away all of my information for free. You can pay me what you want. It's all done through Gumroad. David will get a link after this. David, if you want, you can include it in the show notes. I like teaching people how to get on IMDb. I believe in that. So, like, I show you how to do that. I also give you over 100 awards that podcasters are worthy of winning right out of the gate, whether you have a newsletter, an episode, a guest, a topic, a website. Maybe you have a podcast. Maybe that's why you won them. But there's so many types of awards to win, and they're credible. If I can help you get paid, I have a whole platform on that reveals the platforms that are looking for you to connect you to content and brands that are being paid. I'm just here to support, and I do it through the act of sharing information. What you're seeing here, I do it through the act of sharing. And for me, if I can do it on LinkedIn and create more leaders, then I'm happier for it.
Yeah. Well, I must say, I'm glad we're recording this, because all of that is going to be useful for me, I'm sure, and everyone listening as well.
Thanks. I hope so. I worked hard on it. I mean, I put a lot into it, because there's a lot to get out of it.
Yeah. I mean, so that hashtags thing as well, that's very intriguing to me.
Yeah, remember back when they would say, Instagram can't see the words in the picture, and if it could, it doesn't read it and it doesn't understand it. That changed in 2000. to 2003. That changed. And
wow, that long ago.
My best performing posts on any platform have not had hashtags in them this year. So
interesting.
Which means that leaves room for me to grow my personal hashtag. And I'm not swapping out 5 hashtags. I don't have this strategy where I'm using the same 5 like SEO trying to grow. I'm trying to grow my personal hashtag that I dominate, and only on one platform, which is also slightly unique. I do have an inner circle on every platform. And the inner circle on Instagram, for example, is the broadcast channel, where I can DM hundreds of people without having to post anything. I would rather DM people and send them DMs where I can send them links to go places with photos and polls, and then they can come back and search it and it doesn't go away, and I'm private and I'm in your inbox, and like that's a safe space to be in. But I don't have one inner circle that I make people come to. I have 4 or 5 of them, and I meet my audience where they are. I have a community, and my community is comprised of multiple audiences. I don't try to push my audiences into one singular audience. I want them to be a community. I want them to work that way. We're stronger that way. We collaborate and integrate better as a community than as an audience.
Yeah, and it feels like more of a genuine interaction as well. I mean, going back to what we were saying about social media not being very social anymore. That feels like a better way.
Then in the community, it's not everyone isn't 100% lock-lipped, lock-minded, whatever that phrase is, with each other, and they don't fully agree. Like audiences agree. Audiences agree on emotions, and audiences agree on, like, in that room, in that theater, in that screening, you will feel and you will know that audience agrees just from the emotion in that room. Community leaves room for friction. And when there's friction, there's conversation. And when there's conversation, there's more than just dialogue back and forth between 2 people. And there's real change that comes from that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So conscious of time, so we should talk about leadership, I think.
Let's do it.
I mean, a lot of the concepts that we've talked about already, I mean, like building the relationships, that authenticity by any other name, and also like the really like taking that long-term view and not looking for the short-term gains so much. I think, I mean, there's huge parallels there to leadership and the way that I believe it's best done or best applied. So, I mean, from your perspective, what would be your first and best bit of advice for that leader, that new entrepreneur, the sort of person who's starting from scratch and they want to be more visible in whatever form that takes, whether it's internally in a big corporation or externally for a business owner of one who just wants to get ahead and make it a success?
My advice would be, first off, it starts with people and it ends with people. It's always who, not how. And as a leader, when you're picking your team, oftentimes we pick the people who have the best qualifications. Perhaps might be an old sort of an older perspective of viewing people's resumes and looking at, successes that they've had that they've been a part of, because then you want them to replicate this. And I would say I've never cast or created a company or hired based on what you've done. It's like for me, I'm like, okay, so you did that, and like that was that group of people. So like, what's next? Like, it's not. I wouldn't want to do the same thing over and over. I just didn't want to do the same thing over again. And I had to find people who wanted me to be successful as much as I wanted them to be successful. I had to surround myself with people who wanted me to be a successful leader. And that's hard. It's hard to find people who truly want you to succeed as a leader if you're not showing up in your best possible light. So like, I think I learned that the hard way in the beginning. I might have come across a little brutish. I may have said things like, I know I'm sounding a little bit harsh, but I'm just trying to tell the truth. And I look back at myself, that version of me as a leader who said those words. And I'm such an empath, but to be so focused on finance and money and running a company, to lose that empath skill, that flavor, to know that was, missing in some moments. And look, I'm human, so we make mistakes, and we make mistakes with people. And I operate with grace. So when I'm starting a project, grace is the first thing I bring into the space. It's my voice. I'm going to use my voice to create these pillars, to create some construct. And what I'm going to fill that space with is grace, because there's nothing there yet. Then I'm going to fill it with people, and it's going to be their voices who rise this structure that we're building here. And I'm going to make them stars. I'm going to give them credit, and I'm going to share my credit, and I'm going to be supportive and maternal in how I nurture their creativity, and I'll be paternal in how I help structure and move conversations forward so that we can continue to collaborate with other people while nurturing our own ideas. It all starts with people. I think that a talent brand, here's the difference between a leadership brand and a talent brand. A talent brand, a celebrity brand looks like this. So there's a big circle with like people in it. And then on the inside of that circle is another little circle that says platform, right? Like where you're selling your products or album. And then inside that platform circle, right dead center is product. And then maybe dead center in the bullseye might either be that artist or people, again, depending on, the artist. For a leader, the circle is people, and sort of similar to like MasterCard logo or the Olympics, taking a piece of people. So people not being the all-encompassing part, but people being the thing that ties together your platform and your products. I think that that's the difference between a leadership brand and a celebrity brand, is like what's at the center. With celebrities, it's people. With leadership, it's product, because money is what is substantiating your leadership, your changes, the way that you're able to bring your values and your goals to fruition. It's the financial component of running a company that allows us to do that. Like I have an hour to record with you because I have clients that pay me what they pay me so that I can have time to give. And I think that that's what makes a great leader, is someone who's going to operate from a space of grace. You learn to pass and say no on projects with grace. And also, to be honest, I would say, the thing that took me the longest to learn is that like leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about asking the right questions. The best leaders create space for others to grow and contribute through better questions. That took a while to learn. As a podcaster, that's something I'm happy to lean into, because I've learned how to phrase questions and get sound bites that are genuinely, truly with integrity. And I stand proud knowing that I can lean into my leadership skills to have these types of conversations, and I don't have to always have the answers, but I just need to have really strong questions. That's for damn sure. Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I totally agree with everything you said there. I think leadership is always about the people as well, isn't it? And,
yeah.
I get what you're saying about, the revenue and the finance side of it being more important in that aspect, but also like none of that's going to happen without the people anyway. So it is two sides of the same coin.
I would love to say it's about influence. I would love to say that, that that's where the CEO, CMO is similar to the celebrity, is that leadership is about influence, but it's not. Leadership is about control. It's about barriers and boundaries. And the moment you try to control everything, you limit what's possible.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think there's a line as well between leadership and management. I think management, 100%, that is control. By definition, right? I think leadership's a bit more vague. It can have aspects of that. It can have aspects of like the empathy even, and putting those people first, but in the knowledge that by doing that, it leads to those other results that you want as a manager. Yeah. And it's a back and forth, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's a great point. And also that's probably why managers I'm seeing in corporate media, not just in corporate media right now, but as like industries are shifting, I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing managers step into C-suite roles. I'm seeing C-suites get, I don't want to say demoted, but repositioned back into management. So I am seeing exactly what you're saying, is this like shift, the power shift in management and leadership, right? Because 20 years ago, when When I said I worked in talent development, that meant I was working with like artists who had like some type of creative talent. Now talent development refers to like the reputation of the employees that work at your company. That's what talent development is, what your employees are capable of, and the growth structure of that. That's what talent development is now. That's cool. I think that's cool. I think that's cool that talent development has expanded to include so many people. It's really neat. It was very lonely being in talent development before. No one understood, but now they do.
Yeah. I wonder how much of that is down to, like, for quite a long time, like those two words, leadership and management, they were interchangeable. People perceived them as the same.
Well, I think when you, Ford, I think General Motors, I think the car industry, I think what happened in the mid 1900s had a lot to do with how that word was redefined, for sure. When the work week became what it was or is, or I don't even know how to describe that. But yeah, construct, it's the construct.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about that fairly regularly on here as well, particularly like, so in the UK, it was less the Ford and more like the Industrial Revolution itself.
Yeah.
And how we're, even today, like hundreds of years later, our mindset as entire industries, as economies, is still in that thought pattern of, and it comes up in the return to office argument. I say it is an argument, isn't it? Let's be honest. Yeah.
Well, if you're watching what's happening here in the States, it's a very interesting time to look at what they're doing to the education system, the school system, the work week. So I see a new version of what happened in the industrial. I wonder what they'll call this. It won't be the Industrial Revolution, but I wonder what they'll call this revolution. There will be a word for it, though. I like that you put a pin in it. You see that there. It's happening. Yeah,
there was a phrase going around here a few years back. I don't know if it was in the States, as it probably came from you guys and we just copied it late. But like Industry 4.0, that whole thing.
Industry 4.0, that's interesting.
They're putting it in terms of like, I think the argument was there's been multiple industrial revolutions. It's just obviously the big one, the famous one that we all know, but there's been others.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Electronics, the iPhone was probably one of them as well. Anyway, don't know enough about it. I find it interesting, but I don't know enough about it. If you had to pick like the one or maybe two, if you like, the biggest leadership lessons that you've learned in your whole career, what would they be?
The biggest leadership. So leadership is something that lives in the future. And the more prepared I am for a conversation today, the more of a leader I look like. And what I mean by that is that leaders have town halls. Leaders have meetings in the future that are locked in so that you know that there's going to be a conscious conversation to support this energy and action that's happening right now. So I think that it's really important to have events in the future. And it's sort of like, I come from an industry of like, what's next, on television and in media, like, yeah, congratulations, you're the lead in this film. So what's next? And you're like, what's next is I'm the lead in this film now. So like, but that's what people always want to know. So next, leadership is answering that next. And then I think leadership is also, it's people skills. If you're spending a lot of money hiring new talent and retaining talent and keeping your audience and keeping your employees, then you should probably take a look at your leadership skills, because leaders who truly have connected with their employees, leadership is a brilliant way to attract talent and a brilliant way to retain talent. And I've stayed at networks because of leadership, and I've left TV networks because of leadership. I don't care what that platform is without the person, my captain at the front of it. And if I don't agree with where they're going, then I'm not going to be a part of that ship, so to speak. And I choose to lead with empathy and kindness, which are really hard values to bring into TV. And luckily now TV's been decentralized, or a lot of it has. And we're on this side of the conversation, this side of the microphone, this side of the camera, which is new for me. But I can do this because I'm behind the mic, supporting and having conversations with you, David. And this is your episode that you've created, and our industry and podcasting gets bigger because of episodes like this. So how could I not show up and be a part of this conversation?
Well, thank you anyway, though. Like,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you've hit on something there that I meant to ask you earlier. But yeah, I mean, obviously the film and TV industry, TV in particular, especially in your part of the world, has a certain reputation about what it's like to work in. And you've just hinted at that. So I guess I'm going to ask you the opposite question to the expected one, really, which is that what has been like your best memory of like really great leadership, of being led, of something that bucked that expectation of the industry?
To be honest, when 15-year-old Mandy Moore became a leader in her space and genre of music, and in her grace as she was winning awards as a young teen, where everybody else was thinking themselves and sort of saying silly things and messages, she brought my name into the thank you speech. And it was the first time I heard my name get mentioned while somebody was receiving an award. And I realized in that moment how lucky I am to get to work with people who support me and how intentional I want to be for the rest of my life to do that over and over again. And that's something I wasn't prepared for. I didn't expect to ever in a million years learn that lesson that day. And I thought that's the type of leader I want to be. And I learned even more so to learn people's names and full names and not just their first names. And I became really conscious of people. I became really conscious of people. And that helped me become better at everything that I needed to do with them. And all because of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one of the perhaps most underrated leadership skills, I think, is gratitude. And I think for that exact reason, the story you've just told there, the power that had over you and what it's led you to then do subsequently over the following years and what you do today. I mean, it's the impact we have on people's careers as leaders. And then the power is the wrong word, but the ability, I guess, to improve for the better just through that simple act of kindness, gratitude, of shining a light on someone who's done great work that you're really grateful for.
I had an artist come into my office when I was at MTV and he said, "Man, you're going to have so many platinum plaques. I need to make sure I'm the first person that ever gives you a plaque because you'll never forget your first." It was Funkmaster Flex, by the way. And I'll never forget that conversation. And I think I have a part of my strategy and even podcasting as a guest. I intentionally look for people who are in the beginning parts of their creative journey. I know what it was like to get support when I was starting, a year into starting, 2 years into starting, 10 years into starting. I know what it was like to get that support. And I don't know if I could be that person to other people. That's like what a gift that is. What a gift.
Absolutely. I think that's the true privilege actually of leadership, isn't it? Is getting to do things like that.
Yeah, you get to. Yeah, I don't have to do anything. I get to. Yeah.
I
use that. That's a mindset shift that I use quite a lot. Oh, I got to go on this plane. No, I get to go on a plane and I get to go someplace to go make like a change. Yeah, I get to.
Well, you don't like going on planes. They're amazing.
Yeah. I don't like traveling.
There's some behind me right now. Like.
I'm from New York. Everyone comes to us. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm from the UK. We always go everywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, holiday. Yeah, exactly.
Historical satire there as well. But anyway. You said earlier about like it takes 30 years for that success to happen sometimes. Those people who've become like wildly successful that you've known over the years, was there anything you saw in them way back at the beginning that they all had in common?
It's a weird answer, but they saw me. It's truth. It's very true. I felt lucky to be in the room with them. I felt like I was working with somebody who was going to take an idea that I had and execute it in a way that I could never have imagined it to be executed. And I love that. So I give away all my good ideas. I'm stuck with all my bad ones. All the good ones are TV shows and they're people's lives and careers. And they're my best friends or closest friends or business partners. And I think that the people that I've had the most success with also saw something in me and trusted me. And it wasn't a difficult process and it was an intimate process. It's a deeply emotional process and there's grief and there's creativity and excitement and all of those emotions in it. So if we can be present in a room together and make something happen, I mean, when I auditioned Beyonce for Carmen, a hip hopper, her first acting role, her first featured acting role, being in the room with her and watching her audition, she auditioned for Robert Townsend, the director of Eddie Murphy, Delirious and Raw, a huge director. And just the three of us in the room. And I was recording her. I got a little weird MTV action going on, panning left and right. And Robert took my hand and said, I just need to be 6 inches from her face. I can see she can act. We're all in the room. I just want to look at her eye contact. That's all I want you to record. I don't even need her to say anything. We'll take it from the top. Beyonce will just walk across the room. Then you're 6 inches from her eyes and go. And then we did that. She didn't say a single word afterwards. He thought that was great. He took the tape out. I tried to keep the tape so I can make a dub of it, but he's like, I'll take the tape. Took that tape, put it right in his back pocket, and she got the role. And for the first time, I saw a director share a vision and not micromanage the action. And like, that's what you get from being in the room with leaders when they're learning. Like I was with Beyonce when she was learning by watching her father make mistakes or stand up for them and do things that, they didn't quite understand yet, but would come to fully embrace. And just being in the room is a gift. And I did anything I could back in that day to be in any of those rooms because I knew that things like this happen. And if I can be in the room, I can be part of that change. And not only that, I'd be part of the change because I'm going to take what's in that room and make that something that's accessible to others. And that's what I focused on.
I think there's such a great lesson in there about the way leaders make us feel.
Yeah.
And there's that really famous quote, isn't there? I always forget who it was. I think it was like Maya Angelou or someone like that, in the future when people look back on their time with you, they're not going to remember like the exact things you said or did or didn't do, but they're just going to remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
In the leadership context, that is such an important thing that I think every leader needs to have always in the back of their mind. Like, if I do this, how is it going to make these people feel that I'm supposed to be leading? And that should guide you as to whether it's the right decision or not. But yeah, thank you for sharing so many of your stories today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I've got 2 questions left for you.
All right. We'll keep it quick.
Quite difficult ones,
All
I
right.
think. We'll see. So the first one is the time travel question. If you could start your career over again, is there anything you'd do differently?
What? No way. I timed it perfectly. Are you kidding? I'm born in the 70s. I get video games. In the 80s, we get cable TV and MTV, but I don't get cable and MTV. I still have video games. I don't get cable until like the 90s. And I'm part of this digital revolution. I get into TV at a point in time where you have to learn how to take tape and turn it into a hard disk, and then a hard disk can turn it into a hard drive. I was literally born at the perfect moment for my capacity to understand creativity and technology and still have the humanity to work with people. And I wouldn't be born in any other decade other than mid 70s. I'm 77. I think I nailed it in terms of like what I got to do in terms of riding the forefront, the change of media. It's been a really exciting 30 years. Television's been around for a long time. Radio's been around for a long time. There's not been this much change in TV and radio ever. And I got to be a part of the 10 years that changed media as we know it because of the platforms that I worked for. That's powerful. I would do it. I'd do exactly same, redo, same exact thing, please.
Great. I always love that answer. I'm a few years behind you, I think, but I feel like I was born at a pretty good time as well. We're old enough that we remember life before the internet, but also we grew up with the internet.
Yeah, I didn't really have internet until I got to college. So yeah, like I was like 17, 18 when I finally got access to steady internet. But I worked at the computer center and I clocked in my 300 hours before college. Trust me, that's true. You get 200 hours, you'll become an expert before anybody else does. I could lay T1 landlines down and create servers and build CPUs from scratch from that experience that I have. And here I am creating reality TV shows, but also building systems that support them.
It was a great time to be alive, definitely. And seeing that transition in the workplace as well, from like fax to email, that was a fun one.
Yeah. Yeah, but I was there like maybe 2 years later where we still use like AOL Instant Messenger, AIM. We still use AIM from office to office before that was something that they they ultimately let go of. But yeah, it was a good time. But I think that my resilience in media stems from my understanding of technology. And if I didn't understand tech the way that I did, I wouldn't have been a fascinating choice to be hired to do the casting and creativity that I did if I didn't have that technical. I am known definitely in my industry as a tech leading creative. And I always have been. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Another great lesson there for everyone, I think, is embrace the tech.
Yeah. I mean, by the way, and I'm not saying fancy tech. The tech that I think impressed MTV the most was that I knew how to wire 2 VCRs together to make an edit. When they told me that as an associate, I'd have to spend half my time at my desk and half my time in the edit bay, and I replied back with, no, I don't. If you give me 2 VCRs, I can just answer phones and edit from my desk. They were like, cha-ching.
Yeah.
And I don't smoke, so there's no smoker's break. Hire that, back then in the 90s, hire this guy.
Yeah, I always thought that was an unfair advantage. Yeah, all these extra breaks the smokers got. But anyway.
I mean, and the break for me would look like going into Times Square. So I kind of would rather be inside than in the mayhem of people screaming celebrity names and signs and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Last question. No pressure, but you have promised me a great answer to this one. So it's leadership heroes.
Leadership heroes.
Yeah, I've got one. I've always had one my entire life. It's why I got into TV. It's why I treat my neighbors the way I treat my neighbors. It's why I treat my friends like they're my neighbors and they're my family. It's Mr. Rogers, without a doubt. There's not a single man on this planet that has made something more rewarding with empathy and kindness and truly deep understanding that stands the test of time. I'm going to get emotional talking about this, but like when I look at clips of what he said in the 80s that are still so relevant right now, he created what he could, not what he should. And that's something that I learned early in life. And if you can create what you can, not what you should, but what you can, what you're capable of creating, what you should do is respond to the questions that are out there and support the people who are asking questions. What you can do is ask better questions and build trust and shape minds and shape conversations with stronger questions. And I think that Mr. Rogers has, and look, I'm even talking about him now, like in the present, unwavering integrity. And I know there were a lot of episodes that he put his neck on to have certain conversations about race and inclusivity and gender and all the friggin' things that we're talking about now. And I look back at that world that he created and how he did it and how the people that worked for those shows and that platform still talk about him to this day on being that very character that he was on camera, off camera. That's who I wanted to be as a kid because I felt like I had a secret. As a gay man, you think you have a secret that people aren't gonna. You can't be really you because people don't really fully accept you. So I have to be a different version of myself. I'm not saying Mr. Rogers is gay, by the way, but he is explicitly, implicitly himself, and I love that. And there's a couple of people that I could look at in media, but I'll just stick to this one answer because I don't want to muddy it up. He's truly my hero. And I'm in media now because of him. For sure. The other person, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'll leave it at Mr. Rogers.
Now I want to know. Yeah, I mean, he is a great example. And I think for exactly that last reason you gave, where all the stories you read about him from like behind the scenes and everything, and people who interacted with him off camera, he wasn't acting, was he? He was just being himself.
Jerry Lewis. It's a weird one to say. But I'm also 70s. This person who just has this unique personality and unique skill set and can make great content. But what he chose to do with it was create a conversation around supporting a certain community and showed up and built the framework to continue supporting them after. These are people who truly stepped into TV for beautiful reasons. And that's why I got into TV. That's why I work with the artists and the talent that I work with. They're not out trying to be infamous or just famous. They want to make impact and change, and they have to be famous to have the impact that they know they're capable of. I'm down to support a leader who believes in themselves that much. Sign me up. That's my client right there.
Absolutely. And I think the same goes for most of us in terms of who we want to work for and the jobs we want to have and the clients we want to have. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, Vinnie, thank you again so much for being with us. You've been very generous with your time as well. I know you have something else to get to. So you're going to send me some links, which I'm going to put in the show notes for anyone who wants to learn more about you. And thank you again so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, bud. And I'll see you in the 5-star reviews of this podcast, because trust me, I will be leaving one. Thanks.
Appreciate that. Listener or viewer, as always, if you would like to learn more about this week's guest, and I do encourage you to do so, click on one of those links down in the episode description. If you're looking for leadership support, I'm here to help with that as well. Your first port of call should be www.leadingwithintegrity.co.uk. On there you will find some resources, articles, a Leadership Heroes quiz as well. You can register for my next Leadership Values event as well, which is always a bit of fun. And there will also be a green button that's sprinkled around the website at various places where you can come and join the Integrity Leaders online community for new leaders, first-time managers, or founders of businesses. If leadership is something you want to learn more about, it's something you're struggling with, if getting the best from your people is a challenge for you right now, then that is the place to be. And as always, my LinkedIn profile link is in there as well. If you have any questions about any of these things, or you just want to have a chat about this episode or any of the others, do connect with me. Do drop me a message. Always happy to talk leadership. That's all we've got for you for today. Thank you for being with us. I hope you'll be back again next week. And until then, be a leader, not a boss. I always give it a pause. So it's the millennial in me, but I like to make sure it's working.
Is this thing on?
Yeah, exactly.